Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome to another episode 12, as a matter of fact, of the male perspective. This is where we talk about all things relationship, we talk about all things spirituality, and we talk about all things entrepreneurship. So, tonight, the relationship that we're going to talk about is the relationship between a father and his children. This is a good one, a relationship between a father and his children. And how do we become better fathers as men? You know, from a male perspective, what do we need to do to improve ourselves as fathers? We're not looking for anyone to tell us, how to be a better father, but we're going to look within and look at our own mistakes, look at our own behavior, look at some of the things we learned and were taught or not taught as children growing up. And now that we're fathers, we made some mistakes, we made some blunders, but we're going to talk about this conversation, have an open dialogue, and hopefully some of you are watching. You can add to the conversation. So if you're catching this live or on the replay, please make your comments. Um, uh, make your comments, make your notations, ask your questions, because we are ready to do this thing. So on tonight, we have Michael Young on the panel. So I'm gonna bring him on board. Michael,
Hey, good evening. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing pretty good, sir. How you doing, man?
Oh, I can't complain. Tired of this weather. I was a little
Okay.
spoiled with getting the barbecue going and out in the garage, so it's been good.
Yeah, it definitely was a spoiling weekend, but
Yeah,
man, it's supposed to snow here in Omaha. What, today,
yeah.
tomorrow?
They say we're gonna get something between now and tomorrow night, but we've been spoiled. It's already the second week in November. We can handle it.
Yeah, we can handle it. We got tough skin. Hey, hey. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
So we had Terrence Hayes on tonight. He's seemed to be having some technical difficulties. Terrence, we see you're trying to jump on board. We cannot see your camera, so I'm not sure where you're at. But if you are able to get your technical difficulties corrected, feel free to jump on board, join the conversation. If not, we will catch you next time, brother. Show one at your input because I know you got a lot.
Oh yeah,
So Michael, for those who have not met you, Mr. Young, tell the
yeah.
people who you are, brother. Who
Oh
you are, what
man.
you do, why you wear the color blue. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah, I see. As I'm over here wearing red.
Right, right.
Uh, So, a little bit about me: born and raised in Omaha, traveled around, lived in different states, Texas, Kansas, Ohio, but Omaha is home. Lucky enough to be a part-time child shepherd as a father, and so I appreciate you having me today. I have two boys and a daughter, and please pray for me because I feel like I'm just taxi all the time with them. One of the nice
Hmm.
things with COVID, one of the nice things is all the additional time we get together, but outside of that, I'm CEO of Technology Consulting Solutions. We work with businesses and startups and nonprofits to give them the technology tools they need. And I'm an elected official here in the community. So I don't just talk about making our community better. I actually work on it with some great people shoulder to shoulder. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Mr. Elected Official.
Yeah.
All right, man. I see you. I see you. All
Yeah.
right. Well, we appreciate you coming aboard. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It looks like Mr. Haynes has resolved his technology woes, so we're going to bring him on and let him introduce himself.
Perfect.
Hey, how
What
y'all
up?
doing? What's going on, brothers?
Hey,
Hey,
hey.
How y'all doing, man?
doing good, doing good.
Good,
Glad you're
good,
able to
good.
make it, man. Introduce yourself. Tell the folks who you are.
All right. Well, I'm Terrence Haynes. I am a community advocate and just a bridge builder throughout the community. Um, I'm an artist as well as quite a few other things. As you can see, normally I get a little more gussied up for our meetings, but I just came in from, doing one of those dad things, which is a side job. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
so, but yeah, just I try to impact my community, as much as I can as far as just being a help. Actually, the side job that I'm doing is helping somebody in the community right now. So,
Okay.
And I'm just an average Joe, man. I don't claim to be anybody special.
Well, look here.
He's a chef. He's an artist. I don't want to hear about the average Joe.
Right. Hey, look here. But if you add up the average Joes all together, we get above average. I know the math don't make sense, but you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
All right, cool. So again, male perspective, all things relationship, all things entrepreneurship, and all things spirituality. So from those standpoints, before we get into our topic tonight, why don't you give us a little something, Mr. Haynes, on the spiritual side? Drop a nugget for the men and for the women watching. What you got?
Well, I mean,
from the strive.
I always got a little something.
All right, hit us with it.
So I do a segment on my page, and it's called Strive Daily, and it's just something to encourage people every day. So I'll just leave you with this today. Favor is not fair, because if it was, it would be called fair, not favor. Don't be afraid to let people know that you're God's favorite. Now, what I mean by that is this: I'm God's favorite child.
Bet.
I'm sorry. If nobody else is willing to say it, I'll say it. I didn't say I was God's only favorite child. I said I was God's favorite child.
Bet.
See, we are all favored by God. Okay. And favor goes to your favorite. Okay. And if you have favor from God, then you're his favorite child. The word says he let it rain on the just and the unjust, right? So that means everybody. Everybody. So I'm just telling everybody, claim your spot. The next time somebody asks you, well, what can you tell me about God? I'm his favorite child.
Boom. There it is. You heard it. Hey, T. Haynes in the house. Dropping that nugget. And again, now we got Mr. Entrepreneur himself, Mr. Technology Consultant of the Year, Michael Young. Give us a little tip from the entrepreneurial space. What you got for us?
Two things. Never be afraid to ask for business. Never, ever. And two, you better be the hardest working person in every room, because if not, don't get mad if someone else is accomplishing their dream in front of you.
Oh, for sure.
He said, don't get mad if they accomplish their dream in your face.
I'm just keeping it real. I mean, if you're not going to be the hardest working person in a room, what's the point of being there? I say this to a lot of folks, especially in the community on the board I'm on, a public board. I ask all the questions that they want to split hairs about a $70,000 initiative, and I'm on a consent agenda is $18 million around technology. We're going to move that past and not ask questions. And they get frustrated when I want to pull back the wool from their eyes and say, let's dig this up. Let's go into the weeds. And one of them actually said, hey, I need you to not ask so many questions tonight. I got stuff to do. And I said, well, why'd you come into this room?
Wow.
We got work to do.
So, got work to do. Facts. Yeah. Right. Well, I appreciate you, gentlemen. So I have a list of questions, as always, that I have compiled, put together out of me's own mind. So we're going to jump in with a few of these questions and just let the conversation move us. Let's see. Ooh, where do I want to start? These looking kind of good. I'm gonna start right here. I'm gonna start a little soft. All right, here we go. Despite coming from a fatherless home, what can men do to become a better father? Despite coming from a fatherless home, what can we do to become a better father? T. Haynes, I'm gonna let you start and give us something.
We can seek out mentors in the community. I know for me, my father was in the home, but my father was he worked really hard, but he drank really hard too. And so at times it was kind of like not having a father there. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying?
He's physically present, but mentally
right,
gone.
right, exactly. So there's always men in the community that's willing to impart nuggets on you, but a lot of time pride won't allow you to take those nuggets. You know, well, it didn't come from this person. It's like, well, you know, a birthday gift is a birthday gift. I don't care who it comes from. You know, so if there's a gift, you know, I say take it. So seek out, you know, men in the community.
Okay, so you said something. So you really feel like there are a lot of men who are willing to mentor in the community? That's
Absolutely.
hmm.
I'm one of them. Look,
Okay.
there's two of them. All right.
Okay. Now
You
I
know?
say that coming from someone who grew up as fatherless, and it didn't seem like there was nobody around. And I don't know if that was just, you know, my mom not positioning or looking for something for me because I didn't have a father, and you know, kind of depending on her because like I wanted to do boys club, I wanted to play football, but didn't have that. Even though my older brother played football, he was gone. He was 8 years older.
Right.
So all those man things and masculinity that I wanted to learn, you know, shoot, it was in the wind. And even older, it seemed like there was never a man around to really look, take me by the hand and say, bro, little shorty, little man.
Right. And I mean they're there. I can't say that they're in abundance, you know what I mean?
Okay.
But we came along around the same time. I know for me, it was kind of sort of the same thing. I had two older brothers, they weren't present. You know, they were off doing their own things. So like you, I didn't have that, you know, direct contact with an older male saying this or that. And most of my partners, when I began to hang out, most of my partners were older than me. Unfortunately, you know, most of them, hey man,
Hello, fella.
most of them, you know, was teaching me how to do the wrong stuff, you know what I'm saying, in abundance.
In abundance.
You know, but there were men, but the one thing that I can say about myself, and it may ring true for, you know, other young men, they weren't the cool people. So I didn't run after them. You know what I mean? It wasn't that they maybe wouldn't have, you know, took me under their wing and
So much
nugget, but they wasn't cool. I mean, they wasn't. They, you know, I mean, we had the Stables and Valley High and
right.
Those are where the cool people
Back street.
Those are where the cool people hung. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
They didn't have no sauce. All right. Michael, what you got?
You know, for me, I think about this all the time. Each one of my kids has helped me become a better father. And there's a 10-year gap between my oldest to my middle boy, Harrison, who y'all just saw, who's going to show me his new fast toy. Talk about dad life. All right.
Yeah.
See you in a minute, brother. But, you know, for me, it is the first goal is what did that feel like for me? And there are times it's hard to articulate as a child. You know, I go back and think like, man, you know, did I need a dad? I turned out okay, but what would I have been like if I had that kind of support? And, you know, my father passed when he was 5, very smart man. He's a Razorback, entrepreneur, worked hard. He worked at the World Herald for 17 years. And I mean, so there was a structure that on my father's side that was unique. On my mother's side, that did not exist. And so for me, how I like to think I've become a better father coming from a father's home is I already had a void. I was a vacuum already. And there's still days, you know, when it comes Father's Day and I have to take a step out and be like, man, you know, I need to go celebrate this. It wasn't something I really celebrated as a child because my dad wasn't there. Wow. So when my kid, you know, in the very beginning, when my kid would give me a little cute gift, I'm like, oh, that's cute. You know, I appreciate that, little man. But in reality, I need to celebrate that because it didn't have the value for me because I didn't get to do it. And same thing with some holidays, you know, it was different seeing all these family photos and it was just my mom and I at times or family. And, you know, I'll tell you, I'm really thankful for my older brother, RJ. I mean, he stepped in at a time when he himself was only 10 years older than me and helped me with some things. So, you know, for me, coming from a fatherless home, I think we need to really take a step back and turn around with our kids and look at what did we feel like going through that and how could we be that generational gap to at least help it for our own kids and our grandkids, because, like it or not, life's going to find a way to keep our generations going. And if there's anything I can do on these shoulders with all I've already dealt with so far, man, I can handle a little bit more for my kids to have that legacy.
Wow, that's good, man.
Good.
You
That's good
you
stuff.
said something that kind of shook me when you said those photographs,
Hmm.
and all you see is mom in it.
Hmm.
And even now, just for me, there were times when I just didn't want to be in the picture. And so
Mm.
sometimes I go back and I'll see, my ex and the kids, and I'd be like, dog, where was I at? What was I thinking at that time where I felt like I didn't want to be present? Whether it's mad at her or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't want to take no picture,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I was there. You know what I'm saying? I was mad. So that when I look at it now, I feel bad. Like, man, I should have, can't should have, but it to have made a better decision at that time, to look back on it now, at least it would have felt better. But it is what it is, and hence we
No,
doing this show.
you're right on that, Tim. I tell you, a thing that I do, it feels kind of old school, and it's probably just my age and things, but photographs are important. Tangible pictures, things on the walls, things you can hand down. You could say, if my father didn't do that and his parents didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to show my kids who grandpa was. They're tied to their black side of this family. And so every now and again, I get an album printed out once a year of just like the top moments of what we felt was that year. And just so they have something that they can keep behind them. There's something so magical when I go back and look at the photos when my dad was around. I was like, man, I
Wow.
remember you going to the zoo, and
Yeah.
it's not even so much that it's the memory. It's for me, it's kind of like a place of home. It's like this is my roots, and it's nice to go back and see that. So
That's
photos are
good.
big in this house, probably
That's
too
good.
many.
Too many, huh? Like
Yeah,
Amanda's like, she's like, yes.
yeah. I
Uh,
love taking photos.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. Speaking of being mad at your ex or mad at your spouse and not being present, let's deal with this next question then.
Oh
Have
man.
you ever chosen a relationship over your child? If yes,
Ooh. Mm,
what was the impact? And would
mm.
you do it again? Woo! Ouch!
That's the deep one. That's the deep one.
All right. Well,
Come on, man.
it was good talking with you, fellas. I'm getting ready. Getting ready to head
Man,
out.
guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do we need a moment of silence? uh,
No, I'm
do, do,
ready. I'm ready.
you ready?
Yeah.
Oh, you must gonna say no, huh? You the
Uh,
man. I'm playing.
it's a yes or no,
Okay.
honestly.
All
And
right.
so
Break it down.
it's no secret. I'm a hopeless romantic person. I've been married. I've had some very serious relationships, some dating woes and successes, I'll say. And blended fam. So I have kids with my ex-wife, and I have kids from previous relationships as well. And so there was always this push and pull. Who was I
Mm.
going to make the happiest? Who got to spend the most time with dad? Who got to spend the most time with the kid's dad? And it's in the very beginning, I'll be honest, I was a jerk because it was tough. I had to play this vanilla role. Like I couldn't spend more than, if there's 10 hours in a day, here's three and a third, three and a third, three and a third, because otherwise I was going to give somebody more power. Well, I've actually done the opposite. I've actually ended relationships to fight for my kid. I've actually said, "Hey, look, someone I did not have a kid with, I was dating with a few years ago, and I said something's come up with my son, um, and I had a nominal custody at the time. I had nominal visitation with my oldest son, and I said, look, I can't stand and not try. So I'm going to go to court and I'm going to fight for him. We're going to fight for custody and extra time because I see it affecting his mental health. I see how the time and lack of effort is affecting the game that his mom was doing around child support and things. Everything was about money, not his well-being. And I said, hey, I don't blame you for not wanting to go and tackle this with me, but I have to do
Mm.
it with or without you. I actually ended one because of that. And so now, would I do it again? Yes, I definitely would do it again. Because the outcome was, now I've got the custody that I do, the extra time, the holidays. On the flip side of that, because of my lovely fertility and I love to go out dating,
Your lovely fertility, huh?
well, I
That's
don't
how
have
you
no
I've
more
word it.
never,
now.
I've never
Yeah.
heard that description before.
Man, your
Yeah.
lovely fertility.
I'm trying to
Okay.
laugh. See, I've technically have had 4 kids, and I lost my first daughter in 2004. So I've
Sorry to
had
hear
2
that.
boys and 2 girls, and I
Mm.
try to make light of life and say, hey, my 5th child is called vasectomy, because I'm not having that surprise again. And I used to be mad and say, man, I can't believe I got caught up in this, or I can't believe this happened to me. You know what I had to do, gentlemen? Look what I did. And I got to handle the mess that I was dealt with, and I got to handle the mess that I started. So I'm going to make the best of it, and I'm going to be the best that I can. But it is a balance. I'll leave it at that. It's tough to balance all the time.
All right. So let me make sure I pulled out that and tied it in there. So it was a lot. Yeah.
My bad.
So yes, you chose a relationship over your child.
No, nope. I did the opposite. I
Okay,
ended a
so you
relationship.
did not. So you
Yeah.
have not chosen a relationship over your child. So you broke off a relationship
Hmm.
so that you could be in your child's life.
Yes.
Got it. Got it. Okay. What was the impact of that? How did that mess or deal with things going forward with you and that person that you said, "Hey, I'm choosing my child."
Ultimately, it was she was on board with it, and we moved forward. In fact, we even moved together and shared a home. And then what it came out was, well, how come they're good enough for a kid? I'm not. How come you can have a kid with them? Is it a characteristics? Is it something? And I said, no, this is just where I'm at in life. And I was very upfront and honest. I mean, now, if I had dated now, I'd be like, look, I'm done having kids. So if you're on this second try, I'm cut, stip, snarl, it ain't happening. And so for me, it was tough because I think there was always a little bit of jealousy that I chose to do that or had that happen and had the ability to become a parent with someone else because I think she ultimately really wanted it. And I knew that I didn't want to have it anymore. So it was that's why I gave her the out. Um, and it actually got to the point we don't talk anymore now. I think she
Mm,
ultimately did have a kid though, and I'm happy for her in doing that. So
right. Wow. That's definitely something. Wow. Somebody, or what would you say? The other adult, and I like that. And Mariella says the other adult in the relationship must be open and understanding to the children. And so,
mhm,
not every adult can do that. That takes some work. It takes some work,
certainly.
man. And then especially when that person, you felt like it was the love of your life, and which is another story, which may be why a person may not
Right.
choose, you know. Um, Terrence, what you got, man?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear
We
me?
hear you.
I'm messing with you, man.
Oh man, bro, why you tripping? Ah,
Got it.
wow, that's good. So,
Wow. Yeah. So as soon as you made that statement or stated that question, I was like, wow, where does Tim be coming up with this stuff? Okay.
out of my own life, what do you think?
So I actually, and some people may not believe it. Some people may, it really doesn't matter. It happened. Um, I unwittingly, unknowingly chose a relationship over my children.
Okay.
So I had children and I married a woman who I felt was the love of my life, who I felt like, was truly my rib, that, God had made her from me. But she didn't live here in Nebraska. And we met here in Nebraska, but she lived somewhere else. And I chose to move my children and myself there. And I thought it was a good thing because I felt that it was spirit led. And, this was the woman that I was going to spend the rest of my life with.
Hmm.
And we got married. And it was horrible for my children. And I didn't even realize it
Mm-hmm.
until after it was over, and then they expressed to me
Wow.
how bad it was for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was crushing.
Yeah.
It was truly crushing because, you know, as a father, you know, a lot of people, well, I'll put it this way. If you've never been a father, you'll never understand this feeling of a father. You never want to make a mistake. You always want to do things with the greatest intent, with the greatest momentum, and have the greatest outcome. That is truly a father's desire. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And we get a bad rap. We definitely get a bad rap as Black fathers. I mean, it is what it is. But everybody should not be categorized based on this person or that person. It should be according to character. But like I said, for the most part, every father that I've met, that's what they desire is. Now, is that always the outcome? No. Okay. But like I said, I felt like I was making the best decision for the whole family. And I felt like I had considered everybody. I considered her. She had no children. And actually was told she could not have children. I had 4 children. We ended up having 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, like I said, I really felt like I was doing what was best for everybody. I thought this was, you know, this was going to be this beautiful mending and blending moment, you know, of you know, family. And yeah, it
don't just happen by itself.
Yeah, you know, and it just didn't turn out that way. And you know, if I could go back and change it, I most definitely would. You know, of course, in hindsight, with different things that my kids shared with me, different things that they felt, I was actually able to see those things. I was actually able to go back in my mind and see, okay, yeah, okay. But in the moment,
yeah.
Totally didn't see it.
That's good. Yeah. That's something. My experience was exactly the same. And you know, just the whole, when you hear after the fact, the children's experience, you feel so helpless at the end. You know, there's an anger that comes out. You know, you start kind of beating yourself up, and why didn't I see that? And I should have seen that. And you know, what was wrong? You know, and I definitely had to, you know, still kind of go through that, man, because you know, to my twins, you know, they're still, you know, all of them are really hurt. But like you said, they're still hurt over the situation. And a lot of time, and you can't just tell children, oh, just forget about it.
Right. Oh, absolutely not.
Because they have, it's hard for us to forget.
Right.
And we're adults.
They have to process it. And you know, what I can say about myself is this. I owned everything that was mine. I owned every decision I made. I apologized to my children. I, you know, have listened to, you know, their feelings and still, you know, there's still different things that filter out every now and then. And I'm open to that. You know, I didn't just say, okay, well, here's your frame of time. You get to talk about it. And then after that, I don't want to hear it no more.
Yeah.
You know, so they still are able to express to me things that they feel, you know, ways that it affected them or whatever. You know, like I said, had I really been conscious of it, I would have made a completely different decision. Like I said, I really thought I was considering everybody's feeling, and I was
the best of your ability,
to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And it just didn't. Yeah, it didn't pan out. Yeah, it didn't pan out.
So can I flip this on his head real quick, Tim?
Get it?
Because I'd have to say I didn't speak correctly earlier. Have I ever chosen a relationship over my child? I'd say yes. I had to work way too much. The pressure to be a father, to be a provider. There were times that I needed to be home, should have been home, and I didn't have the ability. I had to go work on this career or work on this client. I hated that. And who am I letting down? Am I letting down myself, the stigma, the society, the providing, the ability? Fill the gaps, all that I had. If not, you know, I was back in court with my ex-wife about some money. If I didn't have some cash to give her this time, there was definitely times I worked way too much. And as I've had the ability of being able to be self-employed and have that extra time to get them to school and not just get them on the bus, or to see that homework's done and the quality of it, man, that's changed me so much. So I would say, another person, no. Work pressure, there was a time, especially with my oldest boy, when I was building up Michael and the elected ability, and I'm gonna be real transparent right now, I would have, because as soon as I stopped doing all that extra stuff for all the other folks, all the extra little bells and whistles went away. And there was time I wish that I could have got back and focused on Jaden, definitely.
Wow.
And if I can add, Tim, I did all of what I did while being severely broken. Still trying to make sure that I'm considering everybody else. Never considered myself in it.
Oh, yeah. Brother.
But considered everybody else, still failed at it, and then had to pick up everybody else's pieces while still being broken. Men go through some stuff. We do. We go through some stuff. We don't always, get to express it, and we don't always express it.
Yeah.
But
unless it's anger.
Right. Yeah.
We're gonna express it that way.
That's true. But even sometimes when you want to express the other things, there's either no platform for it. And I don't even necessarily mean like media wise. I mean, even within the relationship, there's no platform to hear what you have to say,
right?
Or how you're feeling. It's like this needs to get done.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, and I personally think, I know. I don't think I know. I gave 100% of what I had at that time. So that half a glass, that was all I had. That was it.
You said a lot, man. That's good. One of the things, I mean, that blended family, I look back, I wish I would have been humble enough and aware of enough to go and read some books on blended families. There were so many aspects of that I did not even think about. Like, after the fact, I'm like, man, I'll see these shows about blended families, and I'm like, dog, I wish I would have knew that then. And that's a conversation that you have to have every day, all day, and you have to be very intentional about every detail. You almost can't even think about every detail that could arise. I mean, even if you think about it, it still ain't enough. That blended family is no joke. And I think we tend to take it lightly and kind of like you say, oh, it's just going, happily. I love you, you love me, the kids don't love each other. And, we got this whole Brady Bunch mentality. Here's the story.
Us up, man. They messed us up. Okay. I thought I was Mike Brady. Okay.
See? Right. I mean, that was pumped into our heads as children.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The Brady Bunch, the Partridge Family. You know what I'm saying? We saw all these different, the twins. What was that? The twins, the long lost twins that I forgot. The one what is that show? The one twin went with the father, and the one twin went with the mother, and then they went to day camp, and then they found each other, and then they swapped.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the name of the show. But I know what you're talking about.
And then blend it, and I got a daughter, you got a son. It's just gonna work out.
But you know what? I grew up in a blended family, and I didn't even know it. I didn't know I was in a blended family until I was grown.
Wow.
I mean, it was never a subject.
Jeez.
It was never ever a subject. I mean, our genes from both parents were so strong that you could see,
different
features and stuff. So it's like, I didn't think about that, But then when it was kind of all brought to light, it was like, it was a shock. But I ended up having the exact same blended family. The same number, the same order, and the same genders, 3 boys and 3 girls.
Wow.
It was like a complete repeat of my family. all over again.
Powerful. Let's take a break real quick and show some of these comments. We got some things coming up. We got Nita says, don't divorce the kids too. Facts.
Absolutely.
Joyce, my sis. What up, Joyce? That's deep. My dad chose another family over his kids. I can relate. I had wounds because of the decision he made, but they have healed.
Amen.
Yeah. Maybe stop for a moment. Did you think to consult with the children first, says Mariella? And I'm guessing that might be when we had the conversation about choosing a mate or choosing a spouse. So Mariella, if you could kind of elaborate on that question, do we think to choose consult the children first?
Yeah, I think that came up with when Terrence was talking about his move.
Okay.
You know, to be honest with you, I thought I did, but what I found was I didn't ask the right questions. I asked questions.
Yeah.
I didn't ask the right ones. Yeah.
Yeah, Dad, we want to go. We want to go with you, Dad, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Are you going to, new friends, new school? Yeah.
What's funny is my two middle kids, they went with me. My two oldest sons did not. And they chose not to. They chose to stay with their mother. But then after the fact, they told me they felt like I left them.
Ooh, jeez.
It's like, okay, but I asked you, you know,
wow.
And you were at that teen stage where you felt like you could make your own decisions, you know. So it's like I'm trying to see. That's another hard thing. It's hard to have a balance between the new age father and the old school father. Old school father be like, everybody going, pack your stuff.
Yep. Yep.
New school dad is like, well, you know, what do you think? What would you like to do? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that. It's like, man, you in a rock and a hard place.
Wow, that's good.
So yeah.
You know, speaking of that, one of the things for me, the challenge was even making a decision to pick a wife, you know, to choose somebody. I never really thought to ask the children, did they approve? You know, and that I look back and say, you know, how their intuition and their instincts about a thing. I was so into what I wanted to do, you know, that I didn't open my mind up and have this conversation about, well, what do y'all think? What do you feel about that? And, you know, and really search that out. You know, do we need to spend more time together bonding? I mean, have I given you enough of me before I take on a new relationship? And now there's a demand that, you know, I supply to everybody and you know, I didn't even think about it. I just jumped into it like, boom.
Yeah.
You know,
and I feel you on that one, Tim, because and going through my changes from those earlier years to now, one of the things I constantly do is look back at myself and am I going to be good? Because I talked about the businesses, the community, all of that, and all that's really important. But it all comes down to how can I be a better father in my house? How can I leave things better off for my children? And one of the first rules is, am I a good man? I'm not going to be good for anybody else. I'm not going to be good as a business owner, an employer, whatever, if I'm not good at myself. And you talk about that, Tim, like, you know, I wasn't even ready to ask those types of questions of even myself before I jump into it. And you know, that instinctual piece that kids have. I mean, you move back all of the layers of our onions, right? Bad analogy, I guess, but we're all still mammals. We're still animals, and we have that native instinct. Where we really get messed up as humans is we talk about our feelings, and a lot of things are very instinctual, and we forget about that, and we don't truly talk about, well, what's that push and pull? Am I doing something I'm supposed to be doing and is right, or am I doing something I'm choosing to be doing? And that's why I feel I had this hesitation. I think a lot of times we just take a step back and say, what's the easiest thing? What's the path of water? And then how do you move forward through that? But sometimes, you know, like you said, I've definitely been in a scenario where it's like, hey, you know, my daughter's mom, she had a kid. I think Anita talked about, you know, don't divorce the kids. She had a boy, had never met his biological father, and I raised him as my own. and that relationship has had some ups and downs. And when that goes ups and downs, well, then so does my connectivity with that young man. And that is tough and that is strenuous because, I didn't start any of that to end it and have animosity. I started it to build forward. And for the kids, I know what that's like for someone to quit. So I can't imagine doing that to my own.
Wow.
Mari, oh, go ahead.
Let me read this. So Mariella says, I asked that because as a single parent, I have learned that just because I think I am making the right choice, I still have to ask and consider my child's feelings, thoughts, and emotions. And she was kind of following up with, did we consult the children first? So that is definitely facts. And then Nita says, yes, you do. I think she was responding to Terrence saying, you do have a place to share your feelings. And, I find that interesting because a lot of women say that. They really believe that men have a place to share their feelings. And I'm trying to figure out, like, why do women think that? Like, where does that come from? Then they'd be like, oh, you can talk to me, you can talk to me, and do. But y'all don't realize y'all some highly emotional creatures. And
shots fired.
You know what I'm saying? And if I'm emotional and I'm sharing emotions and you emotional, it's like, are women always equipped to handle our emotions because they're not used to it? I've had so many, well, I ain't gonna say so many, but I've had one in particular tell me, oh, you too sensitive. And would crack jokes and make fun and take shots and you know what I'm saying? Right. And it was like, pow, and I was like, ouch, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, all right, bet.
Right. So women are very resilient, and I don't want to get on a man-woman thing, but I just want to say this: women are very resilient, and their resilience comes from having experiences where they've shared emotions. Those emotions may have been received, they may have been rejected, but in that pushing and pulling, okay, this motion right here. All you seeing is the motion, but what you don't realize is happening is every muscle that you're using is getting stronger. Okay. So they're exercising that. They're exercising that resilience. For men, there is no resilience. So that instance that you were talking about, when you share the emotion and then pow, it's thrown back on you, or pow, it's made fun of, or whatever. You don't have the fortitude to be able to bounce back from that. So instead of bouncing back, you close off. It's like a new boxer. The first time you get like hit, you might pee yourself. You don't. I mean, it's like, dang. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. That's
you
good.
have to be conditioned.
Wow.
And because women have been able to be conditioned, and I'm not saying it makes it right for a woman's feelings to be rejected. So please don't take that away from what I say.
Right.
But I'm saying you've had an opportunity, a lifelong opportunity to exercise that where men have not. And so for us, a lot of times, if our feelings are rejected, we shut it off. You don't get any more.
You don't get
man. Yeah. Right. So on that point, Terrence, you said something I really like, brother, where you talked about old school father versus new school father. I'm definitely old school. It's just my dad's family's from the South. When I get aggravated, some weird reason, I spent 90% of my life in Omaha. When I get upset, I get some Southern accent. I don't even know where it comes from. Or I drink some yak. But you talked about that new school and old school father. And to me, what that boils down to, because I completely agree with you, is that we don't have a safe space. And I don't exactly blame women for that either, because we do it to ourselves. I mean, you think about before COVID, where were the places we cut it up with our boys? At the club, maybe at the bar, maybe at the barber shop, down at the set, or at work, where it was a safe place to be around just men topics, from going out, dating, kids, stress, financial woes, whatever it might be. But we never truly talk about what we were feeling that day. We're never truly talking about what we were trying to accomplish that day. And for me, that's something where we really got to bridge that gap. And so when it comes to like I'm hard. People come to me and be like, "Will you talk to my kids the way you talk to your kids? Because your kids come to my house and it's Mr. Young, may I, and can I have this, and may I please do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what they do in my house. As long as they stay in those lines, I have no problem." But that new school deal, I
Right.
tell you, I had to catch myself just this weekend um, about turning around where I didn't have someone to say be soft. I didn't have someone to ask those questions. But I know damn well I wanted to be asked those questions. I want to be asked those questions right now.
Right.
And
Woo.
and so I was talking to my older son, and he's a gentle giant. It's just so weird to see him because he is just a young version of me. Size, his cadence, the way he looks, the way he does things in school. He's a mirror image. And I saw him well his eyes up. And I'm going to be honest, I was too hard on him this weekend. And I had to sit him down when it was just him and I. We were working in the garage, organizing his toolbox. And I just said, "Look, man, I know I expect a lot of you. And the reason I expect a lot of you is because you're going to be greater than me." And you can see him just like, just melt. And I'm like, see, I need to figure out a way because I can instruct him so much. I can bark at him so much. I can expect so much. But at one point, I just got to fill his bucket and say, it ain't about what I need to feel right now. It's him. He's here too.
Yeah.
And when he goes back home with his mom, because it is a blended house, the last thing I want to do is give him a reason to want to leave.
Right.
And I was like, look, that's on me. And I'll be the first one to be like, you know what? Dad was stressed today. I'm sorry, man. You forgive me. And we hugged it out. That's something that I really wish I had as a kid. And so
Yeah.
it's tough because to your point, Terrence, it's all this come around, man. Is like how especially with women, with people that we're having to co-parent with, the mothers, how do we not look like the punk who is soft and wants to cry with the
Right.
kids and do the videos and be like, look, I'm
Right.
gonna get in your ass. You go get in your room, you go get that done, boy. Look,
Right. Right.
I'm sorry to get so loud, but like that's the real dad hard sound, and it's right
Yeah.
in between the two.
Yeah.
How do you guys balance that?
For me, um, because my last two were girls. I have three boys and three girls.
Hmm.
My last two babies are girls. But I know I was definitely a boy dad with my sons. I never talked harsh in like a derogatory way to any of my kids. We never used stupid in my house. We never used shut up. I never called my kids anything other than their name. You know what I'm saying? Because I just don't believe that builds character. I believe it tears down character.
Absolutely.
I taught my sons how to handle themselves. I taught my daughter how to handle herself, but I never allowed my kids to fight one another. And I never allowed my kids to be bullies. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like I had a good balance, even though that's not necessarily where I came from. And what I actually found was I still wasn't balanced. So my dad was the extreme end of hands off. My father didn't actually say "I love you" to me until I was 36.
Man, brother.
But he was very hands off. He was very, very tough dude. I mean, when I say tough, man, I mean my dad was tough. Everybody think their father is tough. My dad was tough. I saw this dude break a brick over his knee. I saw him tear a phone book in half. And I saw him kick a pit bull from the landing all the way down the steps and halfway down the garage, or halfway down the driveway from the garage. Okay. This was a tough dude. He didn't know how to be gentle. He only knew how to be hard. And of course, as a kid, you don't understand that. You just know my dad is hard. You don't know that he doesn't know how to be soft with you. So I try to intentionally have a soft side with my kids. But, obviously with being trained and being reared under a hard father, I had some hard sides to me as well. I mean, what do you expect? That's like walking into a freshly black painted room in a white suit and not expecting to get any black paint on that suit.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that's gonna rub off. You know, what I got from my dad was raising my voice.
Mm.
And then the other part of what kind of hurt me was because he was so extreme on the other end. I was extreme on the other end. I gave my kids everything they wanted, even stuff they didn't ask for, even stuff they didn't need, to the point where they was, you know, they're walking on clothes like it's a rug, you know, they're breaking up toys, you know what I'm saying? Just never wanting for anything. Well, neither one of those are good. I had nothing. I gave them everything. It's still not balanced.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You just ran from one side of the teeter-totter to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so all of those things were working against me, and I was already broken. And then I got all these things working against me, and not knowing how to put those things together. And it wasn't until I gave my life to Christ and I started to work on my spiritual self that I began to have any type of resolve and resolution to even the things that broke me, you know, let alone the people that I was breaking. One of our sisters on this
good right there
on this thread that we're all on said, you know, you have to know that at some point you were toxic to somebody too. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you never think about that. You never think about that. That's your hurt is hurting people. You know, one of the things that I used to do is I would say, okay, well, I don't want to argue, so I'm gonna just be quiet and I'm gonna go to my studio and I'm not gonna say anything at all. That's toxic. You're not saying a word. It's like, I'm not hurting anybody. No, that's toxic. You have to communicate, because then all you leave is questions, and those questions lead to doubt, and that doubt leads to emotional trauma, and that emotional trauma leads to cracks and breaks, and it's a horrible cycle.
Yeah, man.
Wow, that's good. There's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot. Let me get into one of these questions. How about this one? Is there a perception that most boys hate their father? Is there a perception?
I don't think so.
Okay. What about you, Michael?
I think perception, yes. I think especially as Black fathers, yes. Society tells you, TV tells you, media tells you what we are, what we're missing, you know, and the reality is that stats are there. Some of the most active fathers in the United States are Black fathers, but nobody wants to talk about it because it was easy to say and paint especially the Black man, any man of color, as being absent because of, you know, him having to work, or he had his imbibements and things that he would go on. And it was interesting to really see, for me, when I got really involved in the community, because I want to give back and mentor to the kids that I wish I had. I wish all the things that I'm involved in now existed back then. And that's why I focus on a lot of that. But for me, I think there is definitely a perception. And I think because it's easier to have that kind of Cinderella hopeful story of, oh, now we fixed it and now it's better and we got you guys to talk. And the reality is, I think if we focus a little bit more on the causes and stop focusing on like the hate, why we hate our fathers and why we think about that, why media paints it the way that they do, I think we need to have that real conversation. Because for me, I hate that perception, but that is my 2 cents.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was gonna ask you, what makes you think that that perception isn't out there?
I don't necessarily feel like there's a perception that boys hate their fathers. I agree with Michael there in the fact that there is a perception, but I think that perception is that Black fathers are purposefully and wantingly absent.
Wow.
That's what I feel like the perception is.
Wow. Yes.
Because people don't take into consideration it's all cause and effect. If a man chooses to commit a crime and he gets caught, there's a consequence. Okay. He made a choice, but what made him make the choice? You ever notice that in the headline where it says bear attacked person? Okay.
Wasn't in the backyard, was it?
Okay. It wasn't in the living room. You know what I'm saying? And why were you poking the bear? Why were you feeding the bear? Why were you trying to capture the bear while hibernating? You know what I'm saying? It's like nobody ever asked those questions.
Wow.
The headline just reads bear attacks human. Okay. There are reasons, but until you get into these reasons, until you actually delve in to the root, because you can chop a weed off at ground level all day long. You can come out there every day and chop it down. Guess what? Roots are still growing. The actual cause of the weed is still there. And that one time when you don't come and cut it off at the ground level, it's going to grow right back up. We have to get to the root of the issue. The root of the issue will actually then turn the paradigm on that perception of Black fathers wantingly being absent. Wow. They don't want to be absent. They want to provide. But they can't necessarily provide the way another father of another segment of society can provide. So they make a choice. That choice gets them in trouble. That trouble is magnified because the system is set up to, if I commit a crime and another man of another nationality commits a crime, we're not gonna get the same amount of time. It's fact.
Say it again.
It's not a a figment of our imagination. It's fact. You can go and look at the records. So you're creating a bigger. Well, no, you're not creating a bigger schism. You're creating a schism, because if that man had a better choice to make, he would probably make the better choice.
Wow,
I completely agree with you on that one, brother. I mean, that's where I was going on this. I mean, we're all still humans. We're all still mammals, and we're all just trying to eat, right? Bring everything back to our cave, and we want to have the biggest catch of that day. And a lot of times people will say, oh, I can't believe they made that choice. Did they have any other choice?
Right.
And I'm not saying, I mean, you think about that, another scenario, completely flip it on the side. In diversity, I always say, hey, what does someone else's point of view look like? Dang, excuse me. I'm stuttering there for a second.
No.
What about let's just say somewhere in the South, a single white mother who had been beaten her whole life by a horrible guy now stands up and kills him. That's self-defense, because she's got to do what she had to do. It's fight or flight for her, right?
Right.
Isn't that instincts?
Yeah.
So if you're going to tell me I'm not going to be able to eat, I'm not going to be able to provide for my family might be homeless because that thing beating me down all the time, wearing me down all the time, abusing me. And by no means am I saying domestic violence and everything that goes on. But the correlation is, the metaphor is there. If you're constantly being taken down, you're going to fight or flight. And when people make those calls and decisions, they want to highlight that all day. It's just like here in Omaha. Everybody wants to talk about you. You live in North Omaha? I'm like, or you live in Northwest Omaha? I'm like, no, I don't live in Northwest Omaha. I live right by a lake. Oh, but North Omaha, you're like, how's your car insurance? I'm like, it's just fine. The biggest problems in Omaha aren't northeast of Omaha. That's just where we happen to police the most. So if you have a bigger fly swatter, you're going to catch more flies. Where does all the activity come into town? We don't own the shipping containers. We don't own the trains. We don't own the buses. Come on now. So when you talk about
no poppy field, you know
what I'm saying? So the other piece, because we can go into, but it's real, and I think this will be I'd love to dive more into this, Tim, on another one. But the perception that most boys hate their father, I also think is an unfair thing. I do think men are much harder on their boys than they are their girls, just inherently so. Societal pressure, daddy's little girl. I mean, for whatever it is, we are. And that's, I think a lot of the stigma is when we talk about all what we're talking about here today. Young men need to have a safe space because those little boys are going to become grown men that are going to have problems mentally, physically, financially. And so we talk about it, to your point, Terrence, get to the root of the issue. For me, I think it's hard, the expectation that we have on men, and there's nothing wrong with it. But what I think is wrong is to put that pressure and then not allow there to be a pressure relief valve. What is it like to be a man, to be the only provider, to be the lead all the time? I mean, does anyone just turn around and say, hey, man, do you even want to do that? Or do I just need a man to take care of me and I need a man to provide and fix my car? And, you talk about your dad being tough. And I think about that. There's so many people around me who wouldn't cross me the wrong way from any day on Sunday. And the reason is I don't play. I quit school because of recess. Like, I don't like games. And so when it comes to my kids, when it comes to my kids and my son, you can always tell, I call this in my mentoring world, who an unchecked male is. It's dangerous. An unchecked male is this, you think of like Simba, that lion cub, and never had a lion in front of him. He's like, well, I'm king of the forest. I'm going to beat my chest and I'm going to step over my mama. I'm going to step over my peers. I'm going to step over people that I used to respect and I needed to get to this point. And then I come in and, boy, you better sit your tail down. And we ain't going to talk to nobody like that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we get it handled. And I kind of like became this cantankerous grandpa, man, like just grumpy grandpa all the time. And I enjoy it because it keeps the kids in line. But I hate how we have to push our young men so hard society-wise. And, for me, I push hard because I want my kids to leave in a more successful way. But I mean, like I was sharing with y'all earlier, I almost broke myself down in tears and I had to check myself because I made my son upset because I was being so hard in a way that I didn't need to. I could have easily just talked with him. I didn't have to bark. I'm sitting here trying to get 20 hours of stuff done in 12 and I'm frustrated. It wasn't going fast. And I took it out on him because I'm like, man, why'd you think about that? Well, shit, he's only been on this earth for 15 years. Maybe that's why he don't know.
Wow.
Things like that. So boys are like unchecked lions. I mean it, man. They certainly are.
So can we go back to, I don't play.
Yeah.
I quit school because of recess.
I ain't never heard such in my life.
I use it. D.L. Hughley. I love stand-up comedy, y'all. He actually said it in a movie he was in with Jay Fox. But I mean it though. I say it to people.
Hey, that'll scare a ninja half to death. Wait, what? He quit school because of recess?
I'm going to put that one on reserve. That was a good one. That was a good one.
That is good. That's high. Here we go. Do you believe in whipping a teenage boy? And why?
Oh man.
Yeah.
So let me tell y'all about whooping. And I know Marsha, you get on here, and I say Marsha, my mom, very different relationship, but I love her. And there's definitely some things that are scars and are healed, but the wounds are no longer open. And my mother whooped me because I was an unchecked male at times who was a giant, basically 6 foot tall at like 13. And I would bark and I would act a fool. And she got on my tail a few times. Now, plot twist, talk about unhealthiness. The only belt she had, because I didn't wear them, was my deceased father's. That messed with me for a little bit. I ain't gonna lie. Like one of the things I'm supposed to connect me with my dad, and I'm having to be reprimanded with, and it actually stung even more. It wasn't even reprimand. It got to be a point where, there was times it was not a whooping. It went too far. We've all laughed and joked, talk about the Switch and the mama and extension cord, the Hot Wheel track. I tell you right now, I don't like Hot Wheel tracks. There ain't none in my house right now.
Hot Wheel
because she went too far. And there was a day I remember she asked me to take out trash. Now I remember this is the last time I got my hand put on me. She was telling me to take out the trash. And I said, we're going to have more trash after dinner. Can I do it after dinner? And she's stirring some like heat up microwave scalloped potatoes and threw the spatula at me. And if y'all know what that's like, microwave anything with liquid, that's lava. And
That's lava.
It hit me in my face, and I stood up and I said, "You will never do that again." And I walked out of the house. And then that very day, I made a conviction not to whoop. I will reprimand. I will never be angry. If I am to the point that I'm angry, it's not to do it. And there got to be a point where my oldest son was not listening. He was not taking his responsibilities serious when it came to school. And it was tough because it's a blended house, right? So he's got someone in his ear in another place saying, don't have to do it because dad said it.
Mm.
So I told him, I said, regardless, this is your expectation. And I'm sorry, it's a tough spot, but you have to deliver these outcomes, and specifically on school. And I told him, if you do not do this and you do this one more time, I'm going to get the belt out. And for me, it was a deterrent. And it's something that I wanted to never do. And there's definitely been pops. But I'll tell you, I did. It got to the point where I gave him a 3-4 warning, like, come on, man, if you do it again, we're in the car. Come on, man. Come on, man. And he did it. And I, sure enough, took my belt, did it right there. And he was tween. And I shook. I shook with anger. I looked at him and I knew he was sad. I knew he knew what it took for me to do that, for him to do that. And you know what I hate the most is I got results. And then I get results because he cares. That I get results because he's fearful of that again. But I told him, I looked him dead in the eye and I'm crying and I love my son to death. I will never, ever. I told him, you're at the point now, we're not doing that again. You want to fail, that's up to you. But my expectations need to be clear. I don't condone it, but I do condone reprimand and a SWAT and timeouts. But
that's good.
Nope. Jaden, I love you. I'm sorry. I will not whoop you again.
Man, I love it. I love it. Man, whew. That's
It's tough.
Man, I am challenged with that. Me and my son's mom, we don't necessarily see eye to eye on that.
Mhm.
And as I'm listening and as I've been thinking over time, one, I feel like whippings are akin to slave punishment. And I feel like that the idea of whipping and beating and your child as a form of punishment is what slave masters taught us, and we have taken that in our own self-hatred, self-anger, and self-frustration, taking it to a whole nother level when it comes to our children. And I feel like even with my son, and as I'm thinking, if anything, if he's so to the point where I have to beat him, I would rather say, let's knuckle up. I'm gonna give you, if you feel so like you smelling your nuts so and you so manned up that you don't want to follow the rules, okay, let's throw hands. You win, you in charge, you make your own decisions, you man up. But as far as me pulling his pants down and tying him up and just beating him and beating him and beating him, I feel like as a teenager, you break something as a teenage boy.
I'd agree with that, man, because you need to, and it's all about
Especially
that.
coming from his father.
Right? I mean, it's tough. So with my oldest nephew, there was a time he wasn't listening to my brother, the one I have a lot of respect for, messing around with weed. He's trying to be a punk and skip out of school, trying to do all this cool stuff. So he was at this point where he was 17 and there's bright future, bright young man. And so I went over to his house. Dad was stuck working, traveling. So sister-in-law called me and said, I don't know what to do with him. Can you just come get him? Because I don't know who this kid is. So I went over there and all my, we talk about a don't play thing. All my nieces and nephews know, if I'm coming, if I'm picking you up, you better get your stuff straight. So I come over there and he lived in rural Iowa at the time. It was an hour drive. So he was sitting there sweating for a whole hour. I get up there and I said, get your tail outside. He said, why? And I said, well, you're going to make some grown ass man decisions. You're going to get hit in the mouth like a grown ass man making mistakes. So let's see what you're going to do. And obviously I wasn't going to go fight my nephew, but I agree with you on that, Tim. Give him the opportunity. I hate reprimand. I hate it. And there's still times right now with Harrison and things. I go sit in timeout. But it wasn't how I was raised. No one sat me down and said, "Why'd you do that?" Man, you on something there deep. And Tim, I feel like Terrence, you all about to drop a bomb on this, but it's so deep, for me because I look whooping is so foreign to me. Look, I'll tell you about my little privileged self. So my dad grew up in rural Arkansas, and well water. So you would flush the toilet if it was yellow, you let it mellow. Okay, real cunt. And I just grew up like, hey, we're gonna do bath time until my father passed, right? So I didn't listen. Granny B said, go ahead and get a switch. And I'm like, the light's already on, Grandma. Like, I don't get it. I mean, that's just how my dad was even raised. There was a paddle for spanking. You know what I mean? It was like there was a thing you had to go get. I don't even learn about that. So it's so different, especially in the South. Whooping it's every day.
It's every day.
Yeah. So, I grew up, we grew up in an abusive household. It wasn't just discipline, because it was discipline with rage. It was discipline with the influence of alcohol. It was a different type of discipline. It was beating.
Damn, bro.
But and hey, we know you're right. It is different in the South. Both of my parents are direct descendants of the South. Even though I was born and raised in Nebraska. And you go get a switch and don't bring no little young sapling and break.
Nothing dry.
And don't try to be smart and bring like a stick, because they will hit you with the stick. Okay. So you better you better just get it right. But with my kids, I do believe in spanking. That is something I believe in.
Teenage boys is what I'm saying.
Right.
Not just making teenage boys.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
If a teenage boy, now I mean, and I let me say this. There's a line. Okay. So 13, 14, maybe 15. Yeah, you can still get a spanking. Okay. Because that's just the way I was raised. And
okay, let me stop you right there. So you said a very important, that's just the way you were raised.
Right. And I'm going to explain that.
Well, I got it. I just want to make sure that, as you say, just the way you was raised, or you feel is right.
Right. And I'm going to explain that. I that's the way I was raised. And I do feel like it's right that between those ages, you still qualify for a whooping.
Right.
Okay. That's my own personal opinion. Now,
yeah.
I was always of the mindset that is my last resort. I talk to my kids a lot. I gave my kids a lot of opportunities to miss the whole whooping. You know what I'm saying? It's like we don't even want to go because I don't like to do it. As a matter of fact, I'm one of those fathers that, after doing it, unbeknownst to them, I go in the room and cry.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it, And the reason why I cry and the reason why it frustrates me is because if you give a kid all these opportunities and the reasons why that it doesn't have to get to that, and then they still make that decision, that hurts me because it makes me feel like, what am I not doing that they're not getting it? You know what I'm saying? It's like I feel like I failed in a sense because you wouldn't make the right decision, even though I know, everybody's choice is their own. But again, kind of like what both of you were saying. Now, Mike said he wouldn't follow through with it. You said you would definitely follow through with it. I would definitely follow through with it. I've told my sons, my oldest son is 33. My middle son is 30 and my youngest son is 25. So they're all grown men. And I told them, as long as I'm your father, you respect me. If you don't respect me as your father and you approach me as though I'm some man on the street, believe me, even if I'm on a walker, you're going to get hit with the walker. Okay. Bottom line. That's taking responsibility as an adult. Okay. It's like you said, if you want to make adult decisions, then you have adult consequences you have to deal with. You're not going to walk up to a stranger on the street, talk to them any kind of way, get in their face, disrespect them, and there's not going to be an action.
Now, I got a question though, brother. Going back to what Tim had said about the relations of whoopings and in the field, in slavery, and it definitely down south. I mean, the correlation's there.
Yeah.
But why is an adult decision or ultimately, we're not talking about a success. We're talking about a failure, right? I mean, they're going to get reprimanded. Why does it have to become physical?
Well, it doesn't have to become physical, but I do believe that there are some, because of my personal conviction, I do believe the scripture that says, if you spare the rod, you will spoil the child. Because I have seen people who refuse to reprimand their children.
Hold on 1 second. Let me ask you this. So I know this this definitely does fall into a very gray area of, that whole the rod. Now, there's one perspective and there's one study that when you dig into it, that the rod is a rod of correction, as in when I chastise you, when I come at you, when I challenge your wrong behavior, that is the rod and not a rod that is physical.
It's dual. And even though a lot of people don't want to acknowledge it, Dr. Who was it? Dr. Spock actually was the first person to come out with a book, talking about not, physically reprimanding your kids or whatever, and I mean, I'm not trying to make light of his life and his situation and what happened with his child, but his child ended up taking his own life. There is an aspect of physical correction, even in relation to spiritual things. There were times when God physically corrected man. Okay.
Absolutely.
So my thing is, no, you don't go into the realm of abuse, because abuse is wrong.
How do you know the difference?
Well, number one, it's all perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
Because some people might say, well, this isn't abuse, and some people might say that is abuse. You understand what I'm saying? But for myself, I'll tell you from my perspective. If I physically reprimand you because I'm mad, not because of what you did, I'm just mad.
Right.
That's abuse.
Right. Yep. Okay. That's good. That's good.
And like I said, with my kids, they didn't just get a spanking. That's it. You do something, you get a spanking. We talk. We reason. We talk about, okay, here's the choice you made. Here's why you shouldn't have made that choice. Here's some alternatives to the choice you made. So let's not do that again. And you might get 2 or 3 of those sessions. And like I said, by the time we get to that whooping, it's because you have shown yourself to desire that last reprimand that I told you was in the line of what would come. See, if I tell you what's coming and you choose to go ahead and go there, that's your choice. You made that choice. I didn't make that choice for you. I gave you options. And like I said, I'm one of those dads that, it's like, after I had to spank one of my kids, I go in the room and I would cry. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't want to do that. But my kids will tell, at least my older kids, they'll tell you because they're all adults. 2 of them have children. And they'll tell you, you know what? My dad was like one of the most influential people in my lives. And I know even in his correction that he cared for me.
That's key right there.
When your kid can say that about you, you didn't do too bad. I mean, I definitely
agree.
wasn't a perfect dad.
Yeah.
But when your kid can acknowledge that their character, their behavior, the way that they conduct themselves as citizens, because I didn't just seek to raise my kids. I seek to raise productive, viable, good people to release into the world. Okay. I didn't just raise them like trinkets, like these are mine. It's like, no, you're going to go into this world and you're going to affect other people. You're going to influence other people. And if I don't want to infect the world with a whole bunch of extra mess that it doesn't need, then I need to make sure that I'm doing my job to the best of my ability. I was going to say a good enough job, but it's never good enough. You do to the best of your ability. And like I said, for myself, I know I wasn't a perfect father, and I truly believe for even my level of brokenness, I did the absolute best that I could do. And I'm proud of my kids. You know what I'm saying? Are my kids perfect? No. Why? Because no human is perfect. But are my kids good citizens? Yes. Are my kids loving people? Yes. Are my kids compassionate people? Yes. Are they good parents? Man, I tell my son and my daughter all the time how proud I am of them in parent choices that they make. I give them cards, stating those things. I make phone calls stating those things. I constantly reassure them of the job that they're doing with their children and the fact that they're going to raise great people to release into this world. Those things are not all attributed to me, but I did have an influence in that. And that was my choice, So like I said, I do believe that, like I said, that 13 to 15, you still might qualify for a whooping. You know what I'm saying? But it depends on what you did to get there. You know what I'm saying? And you're gonna have opportunity to not get there. That's the last resort.
Right.
That is the absolute last resort for me.
Got it. It makes sense. And I can definitely see that. You definitely, I feel the same way. My son would really have to do some growth stuff. Highly he would really for me to actually whoop him. But some of the things that I think maybe some parents would say, oh, you need to give him a whooping. I'm like, nah, that don't quite constitute whooping category. I mean, you want me to to beat, like they got to really push the edge. And so, especially as a teenager, like I said, you got to reason through some stuff. I want to bring up these couple points that we got out here, and then we definitely have to kind of bring this around to a halt. We've been on about an hour and 20 minutes. It's been an amazing discussion. I thank you all for the everyone watching, for the feedback and comments. But Nia says spanking. My feelings got more hurt than the spanking. So her feelings got hurt more than the actual spanking, it sounds like. And then Joy says, great to hear the rod's meaning. I agree that rod is a metaphor for the existence of a punishment. Children won't know the difference between a spanking and a beating. I think it depends on the child. Really don't agree that a physical spanking works for every child. You have to know the type of punishment that will be effective. It's good.
I agree with that.
I've had to physically reprimand my daughter on 2 occasions. It took place after weeks of repeating myself and conversations. After a while, she said, I had to get in there.
Man.
Right. Lita says, my son would say my dad did not play, but he made me the man that I am today. My son may have turned out different if I raised him on my own. So I thank him for that. I can be a man. So that's good. So as we bring this to a close, gentlemen, last thing that I want to ask, or kind of put out there is one, give yourself a grade as a father, and then two, what would it take to become a better father in one line? One line or one word. Michael, give yourself a grade, and what would it take to be a better father? One sentence, one word.
I'm going to give myself an A minus. And the reason I give myself an A minus is there is nothing on this planet more important to me than my children. And seeing a healthy environment for them, seeing them witness my relationship and the change and growth I need to have with my mother, their grandmother, how I support their mothers, and I don't just mean financially, I mean in their careers, what they like, support to make sure that those kids are the same with me and in mom, and listening and respecting them, and then teaching them how to forget about all the stress and COVID and turmoil that's going on in this world, and understand that, dad still loves you. It's okay to celebrate birthdays. It's okay to be stressed. I want to give him that safe place all the time. I mean, I feel myself choking up now. And I will say that it was not always A minus. And so where I feel that just because of this weekend so fresh with me, and it's obviously still heavy on me, if there's anything I can do better, especially when it comes as reprimand, my kids, and to Nita's point, my kids definitely don't want to ever physically upset me because, I work out 7 days a week. I've changed myself. I'm in shape, and I use my hands as hammers in the garage. But I need to do a better job of recognizing how powerful my voice is when I bark and when I talk and how it affects them. That's what I need to do as a better dad. There's times I need to shut up, and there are times I need to just realize the power of my voice and not have it be anymore. And then the kids take it. That's what I need to do.
It's good. It's good. Terrence.
I would give myself, as far as a grade, a B minus. And the reason why I say a B minus, I love my kids. They are my world. But I have to be honest and say that for all of my older kids' lives, growing up in my house, and part of my younger kids' lives growing up in my house, I was a very broken man. And so even though I did everything that I could for my kids, there was not anything that my kids wanted for. My kids never went hungry. My kids never sat in the dark with utilities cut off. My kids, always had the best of whatever it was. Because of my levels of brokenness, I know that I wasn't the father that I could be. I just didn't know how to fix that, And so now, if I could start it all over again now, it would be great. I'd get an A+, what I'm saying? But yeah, but unfortunately, I don't have that luxury. So I had to say a B minus. What could I do better? I would have to agree with Michael. Learn to just be quiet. The reality is, as a father, you may know where your child is going wrong, but sometimes you just got to let them go there.
Oh man, say it again, brother. And that's the scariest part, because you feel like you're failing and you don't want something bad to happen to your kid.
Right. Most of my there was more frustration with my two baby daughters. Most of their frustration came from things that I did to prevent them from hitting that wall, bumping that knee, falling down that step. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, but I was doing these preventative things, but it's like, maybe I should have just let them skin that knee.
Wow.
You know, maybe they would have looked at it differently. You know? And I do want to say this. I know we gotta go, but I want to speak on my father. Even though my father was hard, even though my father was an alcoholic, even though my father was abusive, both of you gentlemen know me to a degree. If there's anything in me that you respect, I attribute part of that to my father.
Wow.
He did the best that he could.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
Had,
Yes, sir.
and that helped me be who I am.
Ooh. Wow, bro.
Got goosebumps on that, man.
Man, you know, that's huge.
Love. It is. You know, I look back, you know, to your point, Terry, first of all, I appreciate you being open to even just share that with us. I say the same thing. You know, it's a weird feeling I get right now. And Tim, I think I talked to you about this last week. Is, you know, my father's been gone for, you know, I'm now older than my father was when he left us, and for it to hit that time frame where someone, it's weird that I'm not comfortable sitting here, but other people are like, oh, let me share you this story about your dad, and it's not a good story. It's like a way it paints him in a bad light, and I'm like, well, you know, I'm here. There's some success with that. There's some great things that he did, and it's hard to not focus on all the bad because that's what really triggers us. And I really, for me, that what you just said gives me even just comfort knowing with my own kids that, man, if I did anything right, I want my son to say what you just said.
Wow.
That's powerful, brother. I appreciate you on that one.
Man, that's a shoot.
Look, that's why we were getting there. I was like, come on now.
Man, look here. I need to look. Where mine at? Shoot. After this, dude, look here, Mike. I'm coming through, Michael. We beating up. Wow.
So I got a question for you, Tim. I appreciate the question on this. I appreciate you putting this together and giving a place for us men to come together now as fathers specifically. This is powerful, man. I think that there's a whole father part that I would talk about because I think all of us have gone through it. How we became a father to the father we are now, it's a whole story. And, you know, we're just all in different places, come from different places. And, you know, for me, what I've always enjoyed, and I'm going to be safe to say, Terrence, I don't know how age there, Tim age there, but I think I'm the youngest man here. It's really comforting for me because I've been the patriarch for so long to hear other brothers and other Black fathers' experiences that are older than me who've been there, done that, and why they've done that. Because for me, it's just, I feel like I'm that little kid bumping my knees sometimes. I know we all kind of feel like that, but it is so powerful. And I just want to say, Tim, I appreciate you for doing this, man. I would love to have some more father talks.
Oh, man, you already know, bro. Look, I wrote the vision, man. We got that. So this is good. And it's healing for me. Man, I'm feeling
definitely.
You know, I'm feeling something right here, but it's definitely healing. My sister's on here. She knows, you know, my challenge that I've had with my dad not being around and just the crazy turns I took. And but I would, you know, kind of to answer that question, I would give myself probably a C plus, and I might be hard on myself just because I know so much now. And I think even when I first became a father, I knew a lot then, but didn't apply. So definitely the thing that, in one better word, was just being present. I did the best that I could to be present growing up, you know, as they grew up with their mother, but I could have done more, and I know I could have. And, you know, just being in a place now to kind of rebuild where I missed it, because I'm so much different, you know, in terms of of who I was in. And my vision right now is is to start all over and have a big enough house where I can have all of my children in one home where I can download. Because I
Yes.
feel like before I go, they really need to see who dad is becoming versus who he was when, back in the day. And I want to be able to offer that to them and let them just feel my love that I have for them. And I know that wasn't one word, but yeah.
Oh man, that's love, brother. I appreciate all that. And I think you are being hard on yourself because I've seen your boy on here. And the fact that you two have a shared vision, at least to collaborate, and his father, you've created that. You've helped mold that. And so don't be too hard on yourself, brother. The good news is shorter time travel, you can't change what, has, but we can affect what will. And I think you're off to some great places, Tim.
And Tim, I want to say this in your defense, man. Even though you can see where you could have done more now, still remember that then you didn't have that vision.
Yeah.
So you can't beat yourself up. You couldn't see it then. If you could have seen it then,
I would have did it.
We wouldn't be having the discussion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you, creating this platform as well, man. It definitely is healing. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm fighting back a few tears myself.
Yeah, bro. I feel like we need to get over here. Cause look, I ain't trying to see all that for the world, but you know what I'm saying? Look here. Man, that's good.
I appreciate y'all brothers though.
Yeah. Well, that was tonight's segment, Becoming a Better Father. We had Michael Young, Terrence Hayes, amazing gentlemen of the community who are definitely building and doing their part. Myself, Timothy Moore, Clarity Doctor. If you're catching the replay, drop some comments, give us some love, give us some hearts, like, love, and share. And this is all we got. So peace.
Later, y'all.
All right.